of the Leo Kingdom.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, the Leo King, and welcome to my show, Deep Astrology, for this week of November 27th through December the, I think, 2nd or 3rd, whenever that Monday is going to be next week, of 2018. We're coming into December of 2018, the end of this year, and what a year have we all been through. I mean, I've been calling this year the year of the anomaly, and if you don't know what an anomaly is, it's just a very random kind of equational element of life that just kind of feels weird. You know, I did a reading today for some really cool guy, and we were talking about this year, and I described it to him kind of like being in Frankenstein's lair and getting shocked and then thrown out into the trash can, and then having to pull yourself out of the trash can and go to like the Oscars and seem like everything's okay. This is the best way I could kind of put 2018. But, you know, there's a lot of good, though. There's been so much good that has been going around in the universe that, at the same token, while we've also been going through so much wild and unpredictable changes in ourselves and our relationships and the way that we look at life, it looks like it's going this way, and then it turns on us. And then lately, it's been showing us this greater vision. So, you know, I always feel that the universe has its best intentions always going forward. And when we look at this week going forward, and if you've never been on this show, I channel the astrology at first, and then I go deep into the astrology charts, which are brought to you by Astro Gold, or you can go to Esoteric Technologies, look them up on Instagram. They also are for PC with Solar Fire. So I've been really so blessed to have them be able to let me put the charts up on here. They do the best charts, and super happy to always support them. But going back into what I was talking about, you know, this week is a lot going on. I mean, it's like, well, you know, 2018, it feels like there's not a lot of breaks, you know? And I'm not saying just because there's a lot going on doesn't mean that it's going to be crazy or hell or something negative. But there is a lot going on, so that does not mean that it's going to be a boring week, you know? There's definitely a lot happening, and I think that the first thing that I really want to start with, because there's actually so much going on, is, are you all ready to go back into some Scorpio energy? I mean, it's so interesting to see that we've been out of Scorpio for a little bit here. We've really entered into Sagittarius with the Sun and the Jupiter conjunction that just happened yesterday. And we've had Mercury, which has been retrograding in Sagittarius. So there's been this huge, big, you know, Sun, Jupiter, Mercury energy in Sag of seeing the world and honestly opening up. I've been calling it, you know, kind of parting the Red Seas and showing that there is a route when you don't think that there is. But the Scorpio energy is coming back. Mercury retrograde this week is going to head back into Scorpio. And Venus, which has been, you know, went retrograde at the beginning of October, got all the way through till November 16th, went direct. It's been in Libra, its home sign, and it's going to come into its opposition to Uranus this week in Aries. And then it's going to jump into Scorpio this weekend. So, you know, we have these personal planets, Mercury and Venus, you know, dealing with our mind, our mental attitude, our thought process, and then our relationships, our value systems coming into, you know, Scorpio, which is definitely going deeper and trying to get to the bottom. You know, Scorpio is a detective. Scorpio is the glue in the zodiac. It really tries to understand the deeper emotions and the more fixed energy of what we desire and what we need and what we want. And there's this aspect where we've done so much work here over the last 6 years, so much since literally October of 2012 when Saturn entered into Scorpio. And those whole 6 years, and I'm sure you've heard me say it many times, I mean, it has been nonstop every year since October 2012 of every year, Scorpio, 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 Scorpio. So to see that we've had a little bit of a break here, but we're going to finish now this Scorpio work starting this week. At the end of this week is going to be the pretty much coming to the close of the cycles of the scorpionic, intense, karmic, retrograde transits. So I'm excited for this because I think we all are ready to get to the bottom of some very deep feelings in our life. We've seen the greener pastures with all this Jupiter and Sun and Sag, and Mercury retrograde is starting to get some exciting new visions And so I think that coming back into Scorpio with Venus and coming back into Scorpio with Mercury retrograde, well, they're both in shadow, so they're both dealing with these kind of really karmic elements of understanding our real values and needs. And relationships come up huge this week, especially as Venus is going to be in Libra before it goes back into Scorpio, in its home sign where it's truly at its true power, and oppose Uranus and Aries. And so this is going to definitely start to bring up a lot of our project, relationship stuff to a whole new level. New, exciting paradigms and relationships. Some that, come with the whole algorithm of maybe they don't all work, and some that really work well. So we're definitely moving into kind of a funky space, but it's an exciting space at the same time. But the other interesting element about this week is the sun is going to come and square Mars. So Mars is in Pisces. We've got the sun going to come square Mars. And when we have the sun square Mars, these are two masculine energies, the sun and Mars, right? And they're in these mutable signs of change and especially dealing with our spiritual and our higher form of emotional and mental capacities. So it's interesting to see that, the higher octaves, of this element of this kind of more primitive part of ourself, and then this more higher octave part of ourself, of our spiritual wants and needs, are really trying to meet together this week. And so there's been a little bit of I guess you could say, I don't know, it's like a missing element somewhere in our lives where everything's coming together and all these stuff, but there's still something missing. And this is about trying to find out what's missing. It's like there's things going on, there's things happening, but there's still a lot of deep questions in our deeper part of our soul that need to be answered. And this week is truly that week, especially with the Sun square Mars, because Sun square Mars is kind of the masculine, primitive forcing of identification. The sun identifies our soul, Mars defines our ego, our identity in this life, and for them to come into this big, powerful square, while Mercury and Venus come back into Scorpio, which is a Mars-ruled energy, and we have Uranus in Aries, which is really rousting up this Mars energy, and we have Venus going through some big cycles. I mean, we're talking about the true essence of personal planets, of Mars and Venus, and dealing with this identification, our direction, our wants and our needs, and really trying to get this middle ground inside that still has something not fully there or missing. Now, when we actually think about all the things that are going on as well, with Mercury coming back into retrograde this week into Scorpio, this means that Mercury is going to start making its trines over to Chiron again. And so with Chiron, which has been retrograde in Pisces, and getting ready in December here to come direct, this is part of the missing element, is this kind of weird energy inside of dealing with the past and dealing with things that didn't work out, or dealing even with traumas that have happened in our soul, and making these deeper, questions that need to be answered about decisions in our life. Because if you look at Saturn, we start this week with Saturn sextiling Mars, which means this is really about some big choices, but they're very confusing. It's like, are we going to want to make a choice about something that we really don't feel fully invested in or fully spiritually good, or maybe it doesn't feel as higher vibrational as maybe we really want? And especially when it comes into projects and relationship aspects, this is pretty extreme, But with Mercury starting to come into alignment with Chiron, we really are going to truly, I feel in these next couple of weeks, as next week Mercury does come out of retrograde and we'll be looking directly at Chiron as it's coming into its direct motion, there's this element where this week is the buildup of starting to get closer and closer to the center of that freaking Tootsie Roll Pop, And once we get to there in this next couple weeks, this is what December is all about, getting prepared for the biggest spiritual quest of our lives. And I'm not trying to just float your boat or do float your boat astrology or float some like woo la 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 stuff out there like some of the spiritual community does. I'm really being freaking honest here. I mean, we've got Saturn in its home sign of Capricorn. We've got Neptune in its home sign of Pisces. We've got Saturn and Neptune getting ready at the beginning of this year to come into a sextile, which we've never seen in our lives. And this is the great spiritual quest. We've got Pluto, which is with the South Node getting ready as they're coming closer together of this deeper part of our true mission in our life, with the North Node in Cancer really trying to understand and find our true home. Because if you think about it, with all these planets that have been coming home, Jupiter's back at its home, Venus right now is back at home, Saturn's back at home, Neptune's back at home, Mars is on its way back home at the beginning of the year. I mean, we're talking about literally a year about coming home. And what does that exactly mean? Coming home to that essence of our true self and the purpose and the mission and the identification of self, of who we want to be and why we're here. And maybe why the whole entire reason human existence has been trying to be understood for as long as this age of Pisces is gone. Because let's be real, if we go back to Egypt, or we go even farther back to the oldest parts of Hinduism, or we go back to Mesopotamia, they knew what the hell was going on. But this, alchemical, hermetic science is something that our society today doesn't fully understand. And I think that this awakening, when we call it awakening, it's much more than just, you doing some yoga or some Kundalini awakening. This is true awakening of the understanding of the whole entire universal code of the universe itself and that connection to the highest good, the highest creator, the highest God in the world. And really, I feel all this energy that is coming home is truly about that. And so we are getting prepared here for January, for this event, for this big quest in our life. So number one is taking this week and realizing there still is something missing, and that doesn't mean that's bad. It doesn't mean there's something wrong. It means that we still have more to investigate. We still have more to search. We still have more to try and understand. And we still have more to try and understand with what we want in ourselves. I mean, we're dealing with Venus, going to oppose Uranus. Uranus is all about taking us to a higher level. It's the ruler of the heavens, right? Uranus is all about innovation and reinvention. And we have never actually seen in our lives this whole Venus retrograde and back into Libra and then oppose Uranus and Aries. We haven't seen that. So it's quite interesting for me to see that not only did we see Venus retrograde oppose Uranus and Taurus, that was October 30th. We've never seen in our lives, go do the astrology. Go show me Venus and Libra oppose Uranus and Aries. Please go show me that, because the last time that could have happened was not during any one of our lives. So we are seeing two forms of Venus in opposition to Uranus that we have never seen before, especially with Venus being in Libra and in Scorpio. These are two energies for Venus that are very rare, right? Because Venus is at its home sign, and then when it comes into Scorpio, it goes into its detriment. But the whole difference of this is Venus is in a very powerful spot in this space because it deals with relationships, it deals with sexual energy, it deals with our deeper needs, our wants, and our true vibration and connection. And with Uranus, which has been on the opposite side of the zodiac, dealing with Aries, our identity, our core, our definition of self, and Taurus, which deals with our value and the things that we want to, definitely create that we feel that our own value systems need or that we stick to. I mean, this brings up a big opposition about, can we align truly with energy that we feel are in true alignment with ourselves? And so this is a very powerful Venus cycle, and this week it is coming to its biggest part because even though, yes, Venus will come back into Scorpio, it's not like it's going into some of the more crazier aspects that we haven't seen before. This is something we haven't seen before. And so this week, I think it's good to approach, when you look at your relationships, when you look at projects, there's amazing and awesome connections starting to happen that feel probably ultra faded. But with Chiron retrograding in Pisces, there's still this element of ourselves, that I think is a little bit apprehensive of what to exactly do, what to exactly commit to. And I think that's why Venus coming back into Scorpio, Mercury retrograding back into Scorpio this week, and a Sun square Mars is demanding us to start to say we need to start to understand what's missing in the middle, We need to start defining what it is, start to make some decisions, especially with Saturn sextiling Mars this week in Capricorn and Mars in Pisces, what our soul needs, what our soul identifies with. I mean, this is a very powerful week, and I'm looking at it as a very positive one, but I will put on the Richter scale of high with fate and, even some unpredictability and excitement and being prepared to see some things just turn on a dime, very high. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. I think that there's some real excitement in the air about this. And I think that overall, when I really process this and I really channel this with the astrology, it's extremely what we've all waited for. And what better way to come on to the biggest quest of our lives with Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn, the South Node in Capricorn, than getting prepared for getting to the last bottom of this Scorpio stuff. And Scorpio is all about really searching the deepest parts of yourself and soul. And it's interesting that Pisces kind of has that element as well too. And so here having Mars in Pisces, here having, Neptune in Pisces, this is a week in which we're also going to see the Sun conjunct the star Antares. And so if you don't know too much about Antares, it's the big red giant. It's one of the biggest suns, literally. And this energy is very extreme because if you look at the opposite of Antares, you got the Seven Sisters, you've got, Aldebaran, you've got this other aspect that's more scattered out of energy. That's why the Pleiades, right, is like, more scattered out, the Seven Sisters, whereas Antares and the Draco energy of these energies of why it's so red and why we get the root chakra of Scorpio is because of this star Antares. So the fact that the Sun and Mars are going to be squaring at that position on Antares, which is this root chakra, extreme red, extreme hardcore vibration, is pretty powerful, especially because of the fact that this is what I think we're all missing is that red light. It's kind of like being at the red light district in Holland and the light's off. You know what I mean? What's going on? Is that room available? I know that's I'm Dutch, so I can speak that. My oma and everybody in my family, half my family was born in Holland. So, that's kind of a funny analogy, but why do you think there is a red light on the red light district in Amsterdam? Because Scorpio rules red. And believe it or not, even though Antares in tropical astrology is in Sagittarius at 9 degrees, when you look at the other side of the zodiac, when you actually look at the sidereal, you actually see that it's in Scorpio. The great red giant, which rules the root chakra. So this is a very deep root chakra week. We also are dealing with this side of the zodiac, which is the draconic energy in Draco. So we might have to battle some of these more darker, deeper desires, but I think that this is us transcending them to a higher degree. So that's more of the lower vibration of the root chakra, but the higher version, which is truly, if we look at Scorpio, this whole transcendence to becoming the phoenix that rises in our life, this week really is about rising to that extreme level of taking it to the highest form. I think we've dealt with a lot of the lower stuff over the last 6 years, especially 2012 through 2015 with Saturn in Scorpio and with the North Node conjunct Saturn. It's interesting to see that when we come into 2019, we're going to see the South Node in Pluto, we're going to see the South Node in Saturn. The last time we saw the nodes on Saturn was when the North Node met Saturn in Scorpio in 2014. Like that was a very intense, I don't want to call it a low point, but with the eclipses as well that were happening with the Sun, Venus, and the Moon that was at 0 degree of Scorpio, and here comes Venus back to that Scorpio spot. There is this element where we are coming to the ending of this huge, gaping, deep, lower, not negative, just lower parts of understanding survival, understanding how to get through the dark, understanding our own dark side. I mean, it's a little bit like Anakin Skywalker putting on, and becoming Darth Vader. All of us kind of put it on for a second and went, what the fuck is happening here? And we don't have to go through the whole process where we end up burning our face and going through the whole thing and end up, at the very end, I don't know if you're into Star Wars or not, maybe some of you aren't. But, you know, we don't have to go through the Darth Vader aspect in our life. There is a higher form of using draconic, or whether you call it root chakra energy, to a higher degree. And this is why we've seen so much of the crazy sexual stuff in the world and all these kind of weird elements. And especially, we have to just say this right before we go into the charts. Remember that Saturn and Pluto, the last time that they conjuncted, was in Libra in 1983 at the end of Libra. And this is where Venus is going to oppose Uranus. This is exactly also where in 1984 we had Saturn and Pluto, which were in Scorpio, and this is clearing all of that energy out, because what's happening in 2019 and the very beginning of 2020 is Saturn and Pluto finally meeting up in Capricorn to close this 35-year cycle that's been going on that hasn't ended yet in relationships and our sexual needs and desires. So why do you think the last 35 years have been fucking insane with relationships? Highest divorce rates, crazy relationships coming out of nowhere that we had never seen. The traditions have changed on what a relationship is. It is no longer I sleep in a twin bed next to another twin bed. It is no longer, you know, if you end up going through a divorce, you're going to go to hell anymore. People don't believe that anymore. Even if you are the biggest Christian in the world, there is a deep sense, if you look in your heart, you know those traditions definitely have changed. So we are at this position in our life with this Venus opposition to Uranus, with this huge week of this energy coming over this spot. It's kind of funny, especially since we're talking about sex. I went there. But yeah, but it's like coming over this spot is actually igniting 35 freaking years of what's been going on with the crazy relationship stuff and putting it into full frontal view in your own life. Of like, you know, you having to battle tradition, you having to battle this aspect too of conditioning, of how you've been born to believe, right? We're in Sag, we've got Jupiter in Sag now, we've got Mercury retrograding in Sag still this week. These beliefs of traditions with Saturn in its home sign of tradition in Capricorn, we are all ready to go on this crazy, wild, amazing, crazy spiritual adventure that we've all been waiting for. And this has been your training the last 6 years. And why do you think that October 2012 was right before December 2012 with the big Mayan galactic shift? Was because this was the training course before the launch. And why do you think that 2020 is going to be the evolution of consciousness at the highest levels? Because 2019 is the beginning of this whole entire new cycle, this whole entire new foundation of the spiritual quest that we've all been waiting for. And by 2020, once it happens, boom, we are going to change into a whole nother dimension. Mercury retrograde, isn't it fucking wonderful? I love Mercury retrogrades. Because even if shit happens, like, and I was just saying, unpredictable shit's gonna happen. I even said it just fucking literally a couple minutes ago. You know, it's so weird when it comes to this point in our lives where, you know what, it's about learning with Mars and Pisces, I think, to learn, are you gonna go into a deep hole, or are you gonna rise above it and say, I'm going with the flow? Like, things are not the end of the world. Just because something happens or something changes. And these are traditions in ourselves, you know, especially, I mean, look at the business world. You know what's crazy, just to finish this like little rant I have going, and then we'll go to the charts, is this Saturn-Pluto conjunction that will happen in Capricorn is so big because now it moves things from a 35-year cycle of weird relationship situations and sexual situations and moves it all into the government, how business is, and so forth. And so the way that we form our capital, whether it's capitalism, whether we form the way that governments are, whether it's communism, whether it's, you know, a republic or socialism or a democracy, you know, all these kind of things are going to be where things are moving forward. So when you're seeing all this stuff starting to happen on the news networks about the media with the governments and with politicians and with the president and with this country and with these things. The reason why it's so big is because this is the biggest buildup that is going to ever happen since literally 1282. through 1284. Look at that buildup that happened from 1282 to 1284 of Saturn and Pluto coming in with Jupiter, and at that time it was the North Node in Capricorn. We've never seen that since that part. And if you look at life then, that was the biggest change. That was the church, getting rid of the Knights Templar. That was the beginning of this kind of control system of how the new kind of government was going to work that was connected with the church. Remember at that time, the church was the one who said to the king, sorry, King Henry VIII, you just can't get divorced. And that's why he said, fuck you. I'm going to divorce whoever I want, and I'm going to create the Church of England. We can go on for hours about this stuff, but realize that this more personal relationship, sexual stuff, and this goes into the whole thing of, gay rights all the way to transgender to whatever, really whatever kind of relationship you want to be in or person that you want to be. I know that might trigger some people who don't like that stuff. At the end of the day, that's what this whole Saturn-Pluto is whatever you relate to, whatever that you want to be, whatever your true soul is coming out. So that's what the whole 35 years has been about. We are coming to the peak of this right now. This week is the big peak point. Since Venus is in Libra finishing and finding the fairness of allowing ourselves to be ourselves. And then now we have to go govern the world and change the governance of how the world operates. And this doesn't come from a Republican or a Democratic view. This comes on a whole entire worldview of how government is. And what is the way to govern the world with all these new situations and the new way that the world is. This is going to bring up massive changes. So this week, before we get to that big quest and these huge changes, and yes, the world will change in massive ways, let's just deal with the personal stuff like I started with. Our relationships, our deeper needs, what's missing in our life, how are these things all going to connect? We are going to start to reveal that. And the revealing is going to become bigger and greater because even though a lot of people associate Pisces, especially Mars and Pisces, with this, oh, what a horrible place for Mars. Mars and Pisces can reveal what's in the back because Mars knows how to get anywhere. Aries knows how to speak up and say what it needs to. And Mars can go behind stage and see what's going on. And that's what's happening right now. And as it squares the sun on Antaurus, this brings up this huge, giant energy. So let's get into the charts right now. I know people have been waiting. Thanks for listening to my little weird rant. Alrighty, today I didn't change it up. It's still Sprite. I was not feeling well today, by the way, everybody, but somehow with this Sun-Jupiter stuff, it always does turn out okay. So, before we go into that, I'm giving away for everybody who made a purchase yesterday for my Cyber Monday on theleoking.com, all the people who bought readings, bought all the stuff that was on my site, the Fate Tour videos, which I'm keeping those Fate Tour videos on sale, by the way. So $100 gives you a whole pass to all 6 videos. Go to theleoking.com, look up on the Leo King store, and you'll see them there, Fate Tour videos. But be on a computer, because on a phone it's a little bit more difficult. I am going to put links to where you can watch each video on a phone below, but it's so much better on a computer because it is hours long. But anybody who bought any of that stuff, all the readings, all the Jupiter and Sag videos, I'm giving away this magazine and going to personally sign it. I have thousands of transactions to go through, so I will be announcing that very soon. But if you want to get your own copy, definitely go out to newsstands across America. We're mainly at Walmart, grocery stores, and we're also at Walgreens. People go look on Instagram, type in the Leo King and look up pictures, and you'll see where everybody's buying it if you can't find it. And that's in Canada and America. And people keep asking me, for those that want to buy it digitally, we're sold out. We're sold out on Amazon. We're sold out on newsstandsnow.com. There was somebody selling one on eBay. I don't know if anybody wants to go buy that one. But we are going to have it up on Amazon in January. It's going to be up so where anywhere in the world you can buy it. So just know that. But you could really help me out by purchasing it because If this thing doesn't sell at the stores, then they take me down and then they make me look like I'm bad. But the good news is everybody's been buying it, so we've been looking good, and it's all because of you, and I appreciate it. But if you do buy this magazine, you do get, if you take a picture with it, with you in the picture like this, yay, and you tag the Leo King, you tag 2019 Astrology Guide, you tag futurelife.tv, you get, I'm giving away a free subscription every week to Future Life, and at the end of this month, which is in this week, I'm giving away a free reading to anybody who took a picture of that. So, lots of stuff going on. Anyway, let's see what's going on with the charts for this week so I can show you all what the hell is going on. All right, so I just ran this chart for today, November 27th of 2018. 6:40, I can't believe it's already what, like, I ran this an hour ago. So here's the big one. Mars has been making a sextile to Saturn, okay? That's big because this has been us trying to really see and identify, you know what? Things are under control. Things are finding a rhythm finally after the neurotic energy that Mars, remember Mars was in Aquarius of the crazy wild stuff. So we just lost something. Oh, no, we're good now. We're having some Mercury retrograde stuff. But this energy of Mars is finally out of the neuroticville, right? Because remember it was squaring Uranus and so forth. Although it is getting ready for a semi-square next week, but we'll talk about that next week. But this is control. This is showing us things are okay. And especially with this, look at this, you know, we've been dealing with this Sun, Jupiter, Mercury retrograde. I mean, this has been very positive, showing us that things are opening up, new doorways, Jupiter in its home sign, the Sun in Sagittarius. This has been very positive, although it's been, you know, very interesting to me to see that this has been in a semi-square over to Pluto. So this has been us having to change our understanding that there are ways for us to reach where we want to go. That's really what the big deal, I guess you could say, here is. There are so many opportunities for us to reach what we want in our lives. It's our own beliefs, though. It's our own perception about things, and I think that's been the big thing about this last couple of days, is realizing it's your perception. Your perception either will drill you down into not what you're going to get, or drill you all the way up to where you want to go. And I think that's been very important, and especially with this Mars-Saturn attribute, which has been very powerful. Also, the Moon in Leo has been making awesome trines over to this Mercury, Jupiter, and Sun. So there's been this awesome element of a lot of things going on when it comes to, you know, finding that positivity, finding that energy within ourselves. And we've had this unique yod today, which has been pretty cool, you know, because we had Mars here making a quincunx, and we had Saturn making a quincunx. So they don't show it, but we had one today, and it was very powerful about trying to find that everything's okay, especially if we know how to find happiness in ourselves, if we know how to find that everything's going to be fine, and if we know how to have fun, and we know how to live in our heart and be living in what we really want in our lives. I mean, this has been a big element that we really have been kind of forced to be put into. And this is where God's been pointing with this yod anyway. And I think that it's been very crucial for us to try and understand this aspect. We've also still been dealing with the Chiron element, which has been in a weird quincunx over to Venus. So if you see, we've been dealing with some really weird angles here. But this has been about, when it comes to this hole, I'm calling it, because we've had this empty space in between Scorpio with Libra and Sag, and two planets that are in shadow. Venus is in shadow because, remember, it went retrograde at 10 Scorpio, okay? And then Mercury, which went retrograde at 13 Sag, is coming back. So Scorpio is a gaping hole because there's energy that it knows it has to finish out. And with Chiron, weird angle to Venus, this does feel like, am I really going to be able to manifest or get what I want? Or, you know, it brings up all these weird like insecurities and questions that really at the end of the day, the Sun and Jupiter are trying to say, like, especially with the semi-square over to Pluto, like, come on, you need to commit to a better view. This yod over to the Moon in Leo, like, yods with the Moon are very rare because it's only at one, you know, kind of 2-hour point when it becomes exact. And today was that spot that said, you know what? This is about how you're looking at things. You can either not be happy about your situation in your life right now, or you could be happy about it and start to see a bigger view of it. And what you're not happy with, just don't make that part of your life. And what you're happy with, make that part of your life. So I think that today was a very powerful day on Tuesday, believe it or not, even though it might have been a little bit more deeper inside in yourself. Now, as we come into Wednesday here, the 28th, we are going to start to see some elements. Mercury's coming off Jupiter. And I think that that's been a big one, right? Needing to have the right perception and so forth. But with Mercury coming off Jupiter now, it's heading towards Scorpio. The other thing is Venus now, 28, it's coming off of that quincunx and getting ready to move into Scorpio, but getting ready for that opposition to Uranus, which is only 1 degree away. But it is not going to be the worst day or some, the craziest energy, because the moon is in Leo. So I think that it's positive for the fact that it's starting to make trines over to Uranus. It's making nice sextiles to this Venus element. So I think that a lot of the questions of how is this Venus opposed Uranus, this weird energy with relationships and identity and so forth and projects, all going to come about? Well, you'll get some of that, pre-calling or that pre-message, especially with the moon in Leo making great aspects on Wednesday. But I think that Wednesday is a pretty easier day, a little bit of a lighter day, able to get the stuff that you need done. I think there's been an overload of energy with the Sun and Jupiter and, of course, Mercury on top, which has been just so much. Like, it's just, wow, like, look at this. This is what's going on. It's a lot. So, we're going to see a lot of relief come Wednesday as far as the overwhelming amounts of energy that has been shifting and so forth. As we move into Thursday, the 29th of 2018, we are about to see a whole new crazy energy. The moon is going to be in Virgo and make its big 3/4 square over to the Sun and to Mercury retrograde and to Jupiter, and it's going to oppose Mars and Neptune and make this massive T-square. So Thursday, be prepared for energy all over the place. You trying to get your reality understood, trying to make these visions happen, trying to understand where things are going. The moon opposing Mars and Pisces, like emotionally wanting it to go this way, but having to kind of take other routes, and with Jupiter as well, maybe it's not going to look the way you thought it was all going to look. Mercury's retrograding, squaring all these positions. So Thursday is kind of an all over the place, mutable, crazy circus show where you're trying to, with the moon in Virgo, trying to hold on and trying to make it a certain way. So if you're going to be a critical person on Thursday, I would throw that shit out the window. Because it's not going to be fun trying to hold on to the way that you want life to look and be. It's about learning to go with the flow. It's about learning to really, I think, see a bigger picture about it. See how all the pieces will come together. But if we get too analytical and we get too crazy, our emotional foundation is going to go crazy. And especially, I think that when the North Node is in Cancer, which it will be for another 17 months. Oh, I think it's 17 and a half months. Oh boy, every time the moon is making gnarly energy or aspects, it's going to be more heightened. But the good news, there is good news. The moon that day does trine over to Saturn. So we are stable, even though it seems like clown fucking show. So we're stable. So as long as it's getting to the point in which you're doing, even if it looks like a charade, as long as that charade is going in the direction that you want, it's kind of like rounding up wild horses a little bit. As long as they're all going the direction that you need to go, it's kind of like, you know what? It's okay if they're not exactly in a row. Don't become like, Hitler and be like, they all need to be aligned like this and they all need to say it this way. It's like, oh my gosh, just like, are they all going? All right, let's roll. Let's get all these horses down this direction, So I think a lot of this week is also teaching us to learn, especially with the Sun in Sag, Jupiter in Sag. The wise one, which Jupiter is the guru, it is the wise one, it is the Ganesha energy. There's a lot of aspects to Jupiter being this, higher understanding of life. And the mutable sign with fire is kind of that fire can spread anywhere and it could change into any form and go into any form. It's not a fixed sign. It's not a cardinal sign. It's not about how you get there. It's not about how much you sustain it, but how you're able to go with the flow. And if the fire is kind of burning out here, kind of move the wood around and get the fire to burn over there. So I think it's important for us to learn this kind of like learning to be easy through situations this week, especially with the moon in Virgo, which is going to be extremely going through not only stress, but major aspects throughout Thursday and Friday. And the reason why that's so intense is because when we go to Friday, this is where it gets really interesting to me. Because on Friday, bam-mo, the Venus element here is finally opposing Uranus within literally 7 minutes that day, and it will be coming exact. Mercury's at the 0-degree spot, getting ready to come back into Scorpio. The moon is in opposition to the midpoint of Neptune and Chiron, right? So we are in that square, but in that T-square still. It's not exact, but at least that Sun, Jupiter, Mercury's the moon's off of, but the moon will be trining Pluto. And so I think a lot of this is going to be about intense change to our reality and where we're going based off some really interesting relationship, project stuff that we're coming to a head with. Mars as well is going to be at 9 degrees, starting to square over to the Sun, creating that more mutable aspect, especially as we're having to confront things and step into things and identify things, and we're in mutable signs. You know, identifying things through learning to kind of go easy through it, to be easygoing, and to not become a stress case, a hypochondriac, but use the more positive parts of Virgo, which are being more, you know, of purity and being like, you know, I know it's a mess, but we'll find a way to clean it up, or it's not going the way that we exactly like see it or want it to be. I know, let's make a change. Let's see how it all ends up. Because, you know, it's the worst when, I'm a little bit OCD, I will admit. So when people come into my kitchen, especially when I used to be a bachelor and they would cook, you know, I'd be there like cleaning up the eggs, and like the eggs hadn't even been cooked yet, and then guess what? Now they're gonna put like, I don't know, toast on or something, and then there's gonna be this here, and then the butter. It's like, wait till everything kind of is done and then know what to clean up in life. Because if we're trying to clean up while on the fly this week, or trying to adjust things constantly on the fly, we're gonna be zonked. Especially with the Sun squaring Mars this week, that can drain your energy or empower it. And it's all gonna be based upon this moon, because the moon's gonna be in a Mercury-ruled sign, with Mercury retrograding in its detriment and coming back into Scorpio. Then it's gonna go, and we'll show you in a little bit here, it's going to come back into Libra, which is a Venus-ruled sign, and Venus is going into its crazy transition. So it's all about learning, I think, mentally and, you know, I think, and also how you have your value in yourself and how you show some sort of, I don't even want to say integrity, but show kind of like a much easier aspect to things, a more positive dispossess. You'll totally make it great this week. But if you are a backseat driver or you don't like too many cooks in the kitchen, definitely not a really good week for you. But, you know, it's also one of those times where we can learn a lot from this. That's the whole point of Sagittarius, is learning and growing and expanding. Now with Jupiter, there's a part of us that needs to understand this stuff. And I think with this Virgo element, finding a way to not just overly trip out. Because December 1st, which remember to say rabbit, rabbit, on Saturday, the last month of 2018, here we are, the moon in Libra now. So now the moon is in hard aspects with all this Capricorn stuff, but in awesome aspects over to Mercury and Jupiter and the Sun. So we've got this positive element going on, even when the moon's in Virgo or it's in Libra, and then some harder ones. So when the moon moves into Libra, it's getting ready because it's coming towards Venus. And Venus is opposing Uranus. And here we are, the Sun exactly on Saturday, December 1st on Antares, okay? That big red giant. You know what? I'm going to have some fun. Why not? We live once. Antares. Oh. So, you know, this right here is an intense energy and day. And I think that the biggest part of the intense energy, and I'll use some color here, is one, Venus, of course, is opposing this Uranus element. But then the bigger part is with the moon squaring Saturn. It's like we want to make huge decisions while in the middle of epiphanies or crazy energy coming our way. And with Mercury retrograde back in Scorpio, information or secrets or stuff coming out or information that was deep that was, being revealed, going to start to come out. Also at the same time, this is Mars and the Sun within half a degree of squaring themselves. So Saturday, this is an intense day, a very intense day regarding this bold new vision of decisions in our life, where we're going, who's coming with us, who are the right team members, who are the right people, who is ascending and who's, not that they're not ascending, but who's just not part of the group. And it doesn't mean that it's separation or I'm not picking you to be on my team and you're going to go and be like the kid who doesn't get picked. It's not like that. It just means like, where are the associations in the same vibration? And we're going to start to see a lot of those, see what energies come about, see what energies come. So I really feel like it's a very powerful day, Saturday, and especially starting to understand and define part of this middle space that we've been trying to understand, especially as we come into Sunday. Because on Sunday, are we still in that color? Yeah, we're going to get rid of that. Okay. December 2nd, look at this. Venus now back in Scorpio. Out of Libra, done. We're done with the Libra element. We're done with this. And now Venus is in detriment. And now Mercury's back in Scorpio. So Sunday is this, all right, now we're into this deeper space. The Sun, 10 degrees, squaring Mars. Exactly. Big day. Moon, squaring Pluto. Really looking, there's a lot of deep energy. And a lot of this deep energy is really trying to understand, a deeper part of ourself of what we desire, what is this middle ground that's been missing. And Sunday really is this, weighing a lot of this out. The moon is sextiling the sun. The moon is making these great aspects, but it is kind of a moon in Libra. Like, now that there's a lot revealed, now that we've seen what's all there, now we have to process. We still are in a Mercury retrograde. It is in Scorpio, so there is this part of ourselves, even though the Sun square Mars is ready to go. And you got to remember, the Sun square Mars is kind of like, I'm a racer, so, when you're on the line and right before, or if you've ever played Mario Kart, right, it's all about like the lights and then hitting it 3, 2, 1 and pushing that A button at the exact time of go. And you can either shoot off, or if you miss the button at the wrong time, you're like, like Bowser. So that's an easier way for some people to maybe understand it. But, it is a tense, let's gotta go, we gotta do it. And it's about timing and timing the button at the right time with making sure you have all the information and making sure you understand this middle ground of your deep part of yourself. So I think Sunday's a big processing day. I think it's also a day that could be very social, and I think the whole weekend's very social, actually, through it all, with the moon in Libra, with a lot of great aspects, with the Sun square Mars. People are just wanting to, engage and step into, and especially with Mars now heading towards Neptune, woo, woo, I'll do that again, woo, woo. There's this element of us ready to go into, Poseidon's, great world, of wonder in the ocean. And whether that looks like it's the Little Mermaid, Little Mermaid's dad was Poseidon, I think, if I'm right. Didn't he have the big fucking thing? Yep. Poseidon made some hot fucking mermaids, man. So they can go really good, but then you got, what's the big evil octopus name? I was about to say Cruella de Vil, but I think that's whatever her name is. Somebody in the chat room will probably say it. Ursula. Ursula can come out as well. So that's why I think it's very important for us to do our deeper research, really feel vibrations, use this Scorpio energy to kind of feel, is it Little Mermaid or is it Ursula coming out? Which one's coming out? Although some people are really into Ursula. So if Ursula is your style, go for it. Leo King, I like Little Mermaid, whatever, or Ariel. She's chill. Ursula, her songs were horrible too. I don't think she sang that well. Anyway, let's finish this all so you guys can go back to normal life. December 3rd of 2018, now here we are. And look at this. on Monday, we start next week with the moon and Venus conjunct in Scorpio, exactly like they were, ironically enough, October of 23rd of 2014. But there was the sun there for an eclipse aspect. Of course, the moon and Venus have met before, but I'm unsure if they've met at 0 degree. Because I know that the moon was in Leo squaring this spot the last time Venus was here at 0 degrees. So there's something about this Venus at 0 degree that has been very intense in Scorpio because it has been aspected by the moon every single time it has come in a very retrograde or solar ecliptic aspect. Go do some long math. Go get an ephemeris out. You know what I mean? Like, you will trip out when you actually see that every time Venus has come to 0 of Scorpio in a karmic cycle, like a retrograde cycle or during an eclipse cycle, exact moon square, exact moon conjunction, or solar eclipse. Every time. In these last couple of years. It's been, especially this last 4-year cycle. Pretty crazy. Now, the other thing that on Monday I want to bring up is look at Saturn, 8 degree. We are 1 degree away. 1 degree away from coming out of shadow. So Saturn has been in its shadow since it went retrograde in the spring of 2018. So we have not seen anything truly move forward the way that we've wanted to fully yet. We got to the spring and then everything kind of showed us how high we can go up the mountain, and we haven't reached higher. Process that one for a second. We haven't reached higher. The fact that it's 1 degree away, December is the month in which Saturn comes out of shadow. Mars is still squaring the sun on Monday. This is a week, December 3rd. Also, Mercury's getting ready to come out of retrograde, right? That week, Chiron, getting ready to come out of retrograde, okay? This is a very powerful week coming up. Both of them are very powerful, but with that deeper knowledge now, with knowing that the train is ready to take off this month in December, with knowing that Mars is going to go into Poseidon's under the sea. You either pick Ursula or Ariel, whatever you like. Maybe you don't even like any of them, and who knows? Maybe you like Mr. Limpet. I'm more of a Mr. Limpet guy. That's for the people who know Mr. Limpet. The millennials might not know that one. But we really can change our world coming into next week, by this week. Finally starting to see a deeper part, finally starting to get ready. Because we know the train's coming. Even though we want it really bad to already show up, it's that energy, that tension that gets you going. Jay Leno says it best on his show on Jay Leno's Garage. I watch that show a lot if you like cars. And he says it's nothing like going broke that makes you extremely creative. So he said that because, GM went bankrupt in 2008. The government bailed them out. The Corvette kind of went away. And he said it's nothing like going bankrupt that makes you figure out how are we going to make products that are going to go intense. And he was talking about how the Corvette had changed. And I'm sure you all know I drive a Corvette. So anyway, that was the whole thing that really got to me about this. This tension is us not broke. Some people, sure, we live in a world where some people are broke, some people are rich. I think we're all in, with the Scorpio energy, all in some form of debt. I think we are in a debted world. But I think that it's this force that is behind everything that's the tension to get us to really make, when Saturn comes out of its shadow by the end of this month and coming into with this Jupiter and everything at home and this Scorpio energy finishing of the last 6 years, it's actually been 6 years and 2 months. This is the month where we clear it all up. And the universe is ready for it to happen. We do got to go into that Neptunian world very deeply, but that's going to see what to let go of, what is no longer serving us, how we can adjust our life, because the sun next week will also square Neptune, as Mars is on there, pretty intense. Chiron will be getting ready to come direct. We got Mercury coming direct. And boy, oh boy, do we have a show about to start in our lives. So, great, awesome build-up week. Great, awesome week to start to see things in the relationships. And rewatch this video. Go to the beginning. There's so much information there. If you want to know more about December, on Monday I'm doing my webinars. So I'm doing the early bird sale for $10 if you pre-register. It won't be up on theleoking.com till tomorrow just because I've been slammed. So tomorrow I'll have the link up, but you'll have until Sunday to purchase. So no worries. But by Sunday I'm going to bring it back up to the normal price of $16.95. So if you want to be part of my live webinar, they're coming back. People have been asking for them, where I'm going to cover all of December and what it's going to mean for you and look into especially getting ready for the new year. Definitely join me for my live webinar. It'll be on Monday, probably around 5:30 p.m. Pacific, somewhere in there. You'll see the information at theleoking.com. Make sure you go there this week. Not tonight, Tuesday night though, but go, by Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. Tonight's the end of my reading sale with Cyber King, so you can go to theleoking.com as well. And I think there's another 4 hours left if you want a reading for 25% off. So a lot of people bought readings, but there's still some spaces if you definitely want that. Other than that, thank you all for the Cyber Monday. Don't worry, I didn't forget about everybody. Whoever bought anything on Cyber Monday, or even tonight if you buy a reading with Cyber King, is entered into the drawing where I'm going to personally sign this for you, put your chart in it, write a little bit about your chart, what I feel energetically, and channel it for you, and mail this directly to you from me. I love you all so much. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for everything that you do in supporting me, the Leo King and everything. And go check out my tour videos, $100 for all 6. And it's literally, each video is over 2 hours long. So it's like almost a day's worth of awesome watching about the future of the government, the future of love, the future of relationships, the future of home, the future of astrology, the future of the future. There's so much in there. You can go to theleoking.com, click on, Fate Tour videos on your computer. Buy the pass, and you have 10 years to watch them. I know that's weird, but 10 years of unlimited watching. So thank you for all your support. I truly appreciate it. And I will see you all on Future Life every day, because remember, when Mercury comes out of retrograde in a couple weeks, there's only 2 more weeks of this show on YouTube and on Facebook. And then it's going exclusive to futurelife.tv, the website. We also have an app which you can go but purchase through the website because it's so much easier, and it's much easier than going through Apple. They create a lot of headaches lately. So anyway, last thing I want to say is we do have other shows that are coming out to replace this. So don't think I'm just leaving YouTube. We have a lot, but we are, of course, doing the whole Piscean, making the right thing. I feel like Walt Disney, making sure that before I put out the ride, it's right. So don't worry, I ain't going nowhere. But this show, unfortunately, or fortunately, is going to Future Life where it belongs, which is a full-blown horoscope video network, every day, on your phone, and on the computer. It's super cool. Thanks so much for all your support. Truly appreciate it, everybody, and I'll see you on the next report.